Wisdom. What is wisdom? Wisdom is accumulated knowledge. It might be philosophic, it might be scientific. For our purposes, it will be philosophic. Wisdom is also good sense. How do you gain wisdom? By living. And what is living? Living is endurance. That is living through your suffering, and you gain wisdom. There's an old Johnny Cash song I used to hear when I was much younger. The title was, "When I finally learned enough to live, I'll be old enough to die." And it just says a whole lot, just looking into that title. When I finally learned enough to live. Because the learning experience never ends. The experience of spiritual growth never ends. It is an ongoing thing from the cradle to the grave. Now, about 3.5 years ago, our high school graduating class had its 40-year reunion. And the reason I bring that up is that my senior English teacher, her name was Mrs. Yates back then. Today her name is Mary McGar. But she wrote a letter to all of us, which I thought was very touching. Of course, we remembered her because we only had one senior English teacher each. But there were hundreds of us. And how she has kept track of us all these years, I have no idea. It's a gift of some sort. But she wrote us a letter, and the part of it that stuck with me, although I didn't understand it, she said, "What I have always wanted for each of you is that you be comfortable in your own skin." Now, that's an expression that I've heard a lot, and I've never known exactly what it meant. I've always guessed that it meant be comfortable with who you are. Be at peace with who you are. Well, for some of us, that is not possible. I'm one of them. I can't be at peace with who I am because there's aspects of myself that I can't come to grips with. I woke up one morning a couple of weeks ago with an epiphany going on in my mind. A realization, a bit of wisdom that had come to the forefront of my mind. And I realized that if you're going to be comfortable in your skin, it doesn't mean accepting who you are. It means being someone with whom you can be comfortable. And that involves repairing things. Indexing your flaws, fixing them. If you do something habitually and then always regret it later, you're not going to be comfortable in your skin. And the only solution to that is not acceptance of this thing that makes you feel bad, but getting rid of this thing that makes you feel bad. And why should we do this? Well, it's not only so we can be comfortable in our skin, but it's so God can be comfortable in our skin. If we're feeling bad about ourselves, if we're neurotic, if we're full of anger or anxiety or fear over one thing or another, it makes it hard for God to use us. And that's why those things need to be fixed. Nobody but you knows what they are. Some of you might have no problems at all like this. But like I said earlier, I have quite a few. If something makes you feel uncomfortable, it is time to get rid of it. You might recall the old joke about the guy that goes to the doctor. He said, "Doc, it hurts when I do this." And the doctor said, "Well, don't do that." And it's not quite as easy as that. It does take some practice, and anybody who has ever given up a bad habit knows that it takes some time, it takes some willpower. It also takes some prayer. it'll probably involve some suffering. But like it says over here in the 5th chapter of Romans, we can rejoice in our suffering because suffering produces endurance. We had a pastor one time, he's gone now, but he told me one time, he said, Zimmer, I believe in the synchronicity of things. He believed that all of life was synchronized, that everything affected something else, that there was no randomness to it. Now you could get into a long philosophical and theological argument about that. But the fact does remain that no matter what we have done, where we have been, or what kind of person we have been, the lives that we have led are the lives that led us to be here in this church on this day.